with the Appraisal Institute, people don't really know how the hierarchy and the whole chapters and regions work.
It's always from the ground up, from the bottom level, which is the general membership. But it filters through the 60-some chapters and then the 10 regions, and then it gets up to the national level.
It's really good to get out there, talk to people, share ideas, and it's good to have that network.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Face Value podcast by the Appraisal Institute. I'm Warren Boyzot, your co-host. Today's episode was inspired by my recent trip to Washington, D.C. for LDAC. I had a chance to speak to a lot of Appraisal Institute appraisers, and what became abundantly clear throughout that few days was that there is a lot of questions still about how the Appraisal Institute actually works, how the national, regional, and chapter levels interact, how decisions get made, and what being a part of this organization really means. This was an idea that actually came up in a discussion group of mine by someone that suggested an Appraisal Institute 101 podcast. Great idea. I promised that person that podcast would happen, and so here we are.
And understanding that structure is important for our members so that they can more effectively engage with the Institute, advocate for our profession, and grow their career and businesses. I'm Tonia Vilas, your co-host, and today we're thrilled to welcome someone who knows the inner workings of the Institute better than most. Michael is a highly respected appraiser, a dedicated volunteer, and the president-elect of the Appraisal Institute. He's joining us today to help us better understand how the organization functions, how chapters, regions, and nationals support each other, and to share his experiences as a leader of our organization. Mike, welcome to Face Value.
It's great to be here. Thank you, guys.
So, Mike, can you share a little bit about your background and what made you want to volunteer for this profession?
I'm a classically trained pianist. I wanted to be a classical orchestra conductor, and that's what I decided to do, or started to try to do after college. But I quickly fell into real estate appraisal, working for a mortgage broker, familiarizing myself with some other appraisers that the mortgage broker was dealing with. And I started working with an SRA, and that was in the mid-1980s. And the rest is history, as they say. I became a residential appraiser first, and then I moved into commercial. I received my MAI designation way back in 1993 at the ripe old age of 30. So I've been doing this for a while. And as far as volunteering goes, I guess you could say that I've always felt a need to volunteer. If you really like the organization that you're in, you feel a need to do more than just be a member of the organization and look where you can improve it, where you can contribute. So then when I get to the Appraisal Institute, I become a member. I immediately get started with a Central New Jersey chapter, the Philadelphia chapter, and doing things with education, doing things with candidate guidance. And then eventually I ran for the board of directors for the Philadelphia chapter. So I ran through 3 years of being on the board. And then the chapter nominating committee nominated me for office. And then I was secretary and treasurer and VP and president of the chapter. And then, you feel a need to keep going and doing more at the next level. And for us, the next level of involvement in governance is the regional level. And then the same thing. People said, hey, do you want to run for this? You might be a good candidate to work at the national level. And so then you run for third director. Next thing you know, you're on the board of directors for 4 years. And then you get on the audit committee and you're still on the board of directors. And then somebody says, hey, why don't you run for national office? And then you go through that. And then, here it is, 2025, soon to be 2026. So that's kind of the history there.
So I think we should take this back, Tonia, really ground roots. Let's take it all the way down to the chapter level.
Sure. Well, we have about in the mid 60s approximately. And then we have 10 regions. So between 5 and 7 or 8 chapters per region. And the 10 regions are really the linchpin between the chapters and national. So, let's start with the chapter. Obviously, every chapter has its own board of directors, its own slate of officers. And depending on the size of the chapter officers and some of the other directors or officers become regional reps. So they represent the chapter, their particular chapter, at the region level. Okay. So whatever region you might be in, whatever chapter you're in, depending on the size of your chapter, you have various numbers of regional reps to the region. The region is, like I said, the linchpin between the chapters and national. So at the very base member level, right, you elect, as a member, you elect your chapter representation. You elect your board, you elect your officers, and you elect your regional reps. They then represent you and the chapter at the region level. The regional people, so let's say you have between 20 and 30 regional members per region, right? They elect third regional directors who become vice chairs and chairs of the region, and they sit on the national board of directors. And it's the national board of directors that meets 4 times, usually in Chicago or at a conference or maybe another offsite location if we don't have special board meetings, but it's a minimum of 4. It's a minimum of 4 meetings per year. And that's where the decision making that affects the entire organization gets made. It's the national board of directors. So it's 20 chairs and vice chairs from the 10 regions. It's the officers, the 4 officers. The CEO is a member of the executive committee and the board, but they're not voting.
And if we had a listener out there that was newly designated, and again, taking it kind of back to the chapter level, I can speak from our chapter here in Colorado that if you are interested, it literally takes you telling someone that you're interested. Just let someone know that you're interested, and that literally probably is all it will take.
Yeah, the chapters have a lot of different committees. There's a chapter finance committee and a chapter appraiser guidance committee.
Education, I've always thought was a good one to start with.
There's a government relations committee that the chapters have to have. So you're right. It really doesn't take much. You can contact your chapter president. You can certainly contact your chapter ED. They know exactly who everybody is in the chapter and where spaces need to be filled. The immediate past chapter president of a chapter becomes the nominating committee chair for the chapter.
Mike, that's also true for national and region, right? All our national, region, and chapters are structured the same way, where the immediate past president, chair, president, so president on chapter and national level, and chair on region level, all of the immediate past become chairs of their respective national nominating committee or national committees. That's on the national level. And on the chapter level, there's so many opportunities, like we just said, and they don't have to take up a lot of someone's time, where you can do a seminar once a quarter or every 6 months, put together a seminar. And those are great ways. You're talking about education, but they're different. Like, you can have national courses, and then you can have seminars that are homegrown through the chapters that are always more interesting in your area. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different ways to volunteer.
A committee appointment at the chapter level might not necessarily be as much of a time commitment as being on the board of your chapter. But even if you're on the board, I mean, it all depends on other volunteer opportunities, how active your chapter might be, what types of things you're encouraged to get involved in as a board member, right? But the board positions are, I think, only 3 years long.
Now, I always butcher the sayings, but it's many hands make work light. So more people in a chapter or a region that volunteer, it makes it easier for you to put on events, to have additional members come, to get CE, to host different things, and just, I think, networking. When something that people forget is that this is a great networking opportunity. And I know we're all stuck to our desks lately, but it's really good to get out there, talk to people, share ideas, and sometimes just bounce difficult problems or, projects that you're working on, bounce the ideas, or just try to figure things out. And it's good to have that network.
Yeah. I mean, I think some of besides the professional networking and referring assignments to one another and things like that, I think some of the longest lasting friendships I have amongst other appraisers are people I've met and worked with along the way, whether it's the chapter level or the regional level or the national level.
Yeah. And it's not just the appraisers, it's their families, because you have families that get together too.
They know that there's a little bit of a confusion with what the difference of a project team and a committee is. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about how that would differ?
Sure. Committees, we have a number of different committees at the national level. And obviously, I think you're talking about the
I
national
am,
level, right?
yes.
So some committees are completely presidential appointments, like the Government Relations Committee. Some committees are a combination of presidential appointments and board positions, like the strategic planning. And there's a director position on there. The Finance Committee has a spot or two for board members only. The Audit Committee is a national committee comprised only of sitting board members. The Nominating Committee is selected by each of the 10 regions. So each of the 10 regions votes on a member of the National Nominating Committee. So different committees work different ways in how they get populated. But a project team is typically a presidential appointment for a specific task that needs to get done in a year or so. And if it goes beyond the year, then the next president can say, okay, I want to keep that going. Whereas a committee is more of a standing committee. It's usually a two-year thing where, different times, maybe 50% of the committee is rolling over. And you could be on the committee for 2 years, and then you can have a second term on most committees. So you can serve on a committee for 4 years if that president that year reappoints you.
No, I was going to ask Warren, what was the confusion that you heard about project teams and committees? What were some of the misconceptions that you've heard?
I think a lot of people, and honestly, me and on some of them, but I think there's a confusion in that a lot of people just think that they're interchangeable. I can give the example of when I was the chair of RAPT, the Residential Appraisal Project Team, years ago. I was the chair of that for 3 years. We were a project team. And then now it has become a committee. So I think a lot of times people just think that they're interchangeable terms. What I just wanted to, and Mike, you did a great job of explaining that there is a difference between committees and project teams.
Mike, can you tell us a little bit about how chapters and regions can play a role with shaping our national organization? Can you tell us a little bit about how some of those policies are made?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have any mechanism whereby thousands of people vote on a particular topic or a particular office, or VP or anything like that. Like you said, it all, the VP came from the VP nomination came from the National Nominating Committee, which was populated by the regions, and the regions vote, the region members vote, and the region members are the chapter officers and people who the chapter members have elected to send to the region. Okay. So it's always membership oriented. It's always from the ground up, from the bottom level, which is the general membership. But it filters through the 60 some chapters and then the 10 regions, and then it gets up to the national level. So that's how chapters really can participate and regions can participate. It's built in that they are participating. It's the chapter members that vote on their officers and their directors. Those are the people that sit at the region meetings and make decisions and who to send to the board and who to send to the National Nominating Committee. And then those people make the decisions, the next year when they get in office. And it's the board that elects the officers. So it's always flowing up from the members, but there's nobody gets an email 14,000 emails and sends out 14,000 emails that vote for this person or vote for this topic or anything like that.
But opinions are heard, right? So let's say there's a change in bylaws and a recommendations made. How would that work?
Whenever there's a bylaws change, the board first sends out a 45-day notice. And the 45-day notice goes to all of the members. Please don't throw them away. Check your emails for these types of things. The 45-day notice is not a done deal. It's a proposed change to the bylaws. And sometimes we'll send out a 45-day notice for a policy change or a regulation change if we think it's significant enough that member input is important. But technically, it's only for the bylaws. So the 45-day notice goes out, and we invite commentary from members. It can be the membership level. It can be a chapter that voices their opinion on the topic. And all of those emails get compiled, and the board gets to see every one of those emails. And they're even cataloged by, pro, con, question mark. Like somebody might have a comment, I kind of like this, but I kind of don't like that, something like that. So as you know, being on the board, we read all of those comments, and it's not a done deal. We've had 45-day notices go out where the board thought, yeah, this is a good idea to expose the membership and see what they think about it, and then they don't like it, or they, we don't vote on it that way, or maybe we make a change to it, and then it goes back out for another 45-day notice.
Warren, at your chapter, do you discuss these 45-day notices?
We don't necessarily make a special meeting to discuss them, but at the next board meeting that happens to come up, as long as it's in time, it'll definitely be an agenda item so that everyone understands and can have a discussion about it. So yes, we don't call anything special for it, but it will get discussed for sure.
Yeah. And on a region level, I believe that someone from national is usually present at the region meetings, and they present the 45-day notices there. And I think most region meetings are open for all members, right? Any member of the region can sit in and listen to their region meeting.
But it's not even just the national officer that can present the 45-day notice. I mean, the vice chair and the chair are there for that region. So two of the board members that sit on the national board are at that regional meeting and can discuss what's in the regional meeting. I mean, what's in the 45-day notice. And the reason it looks like it's a done deal, because our legal department takes great pains to go through all of the places in the bylaws or the regs where there might be a change that's reflected by this one particular change. So it might be a terminology thing. It might be a number of days, something has to happen, and it might filter through different parts. So you see a lot of changes that might accompany a 45-day notice. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a done deal. That just means here's where all the changes would be that this represents.
Yes, see, Warren, he explains it much better than I ever could.
That's why we have him here. And yeah, Mike, this was great. And as we wrap up, I just wanted to mention that at the time we were taping this, literally 1 week ago, we actually all got an email with this information. So the point here being that people in this day and age like to receive their information differently. If you got that email that explained the chapters and the regions and how everything works, great. If that's how you like to get it. But we have a podcast where you can also learn the same information. So Mike, thank you for coming today.
Sure.
I think this was a great idea, and I think you did a perfect job of breaking it down for us.
Well, I appreciate that, Warren.
Yeah.
I feel as though I'm not trying to self-invite myself to part two, but I do think we still only scratched the surface.
I think you're right. So Tonia, if someone did have an idea of another podcast that they thought should happen, how would they go about doing that?
Please go to face value at appraisalinstitute.org and send Warren and myself an email. We will read it and we will respond. So thank you to everyone who's already sent us emails. Thank you for those emails that we know are coming. And Mike, any final parting words to our members out there and appraisers and friends and family of appraisers, the whole network out there? Anything you want to say before we let go?
Friends and family of appraisers offer a lot of support for sure, especially when you get into these positions. Your family support is very, very important and helpful. And I know that most appraisers out there work long and hard hours, and they have a lot of family support. So that's always helpful.
I agree with that. And I thank my family for supporting me, because sometimes those meetings go long. So Mike, thank you for all your time and devotion that you've put to our organization. It does not go unnoticed.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.